Hello and welcome back. So in this lecture we will discuss about the ID locator in the Selenium WebDriver. What is the ID locator that we already know, and ID is the one of the fastest locator in the Selenium WebDriver. But on what conditions we should use the ID locator in the Selenium WebDriver, we will discuss in this lecture. And there are some disadvantages when we should not go with the ID locators, we should go with the other locators. So every locator has some advantage and every locator have some disadvantage, but we should decide which locators is perfect for our automation script based on our applications. So if you know all these things, then you can easily write the perfect and stable locators for your automation script. So on my screen you can see the ID locator is the most preferred and the fastest way to locate the desired web element on the web page. So if the ID is available on the web page, we can write the ID locators for our automation script, and it is the fastest way to locate the desired web element on the web page. Now, why to consider and what is the advantage of using as a locator? This is also the interview questions, why we need the ID locators if we have the other locators in the Selenium WebDriver, and what is the advantage of using the ID as a locators. So in that case, you should say ID are the unique for each element on the page. It is considered the fastest and the safest method to locate the element. So which one is the fastest method to locate the web element on the web page? You can say it is the ID. Okay. The ID attribute is the unique identifier which is assigned to an HTML element. So whatever web elements you are seeing on the web page, all they have the unique ID. Then you can go with the ID locators in the Selenium WebDriver. Okay. And if you write your automation script with the ID locator, then your script will be the faster than the other locators. That means your script can execute it in the less time. Okay, but there are some conditions. You cannot go every time with the ID locators. Now this is the basic syntax of the ID locator in the Selenium. So by.id, and you need to provide the name of the ID. Okay. This is the by class that we have already discussed, and .id is the locator name, and in the bracket, and then you have the double quotes and in the name of the ID. Okay. Now the Selenium method syntax. This is the common syntax. Now how you can write in the Selenium when you are writing your automation script. So this is the driver.findElement. Find element will help you to locate your web element on the web page, and inside the find elements you need to provide the by class and the locators, and this is the value of the ID attributes. You already know what is the attribute and what is the value of the attribute. Then you can provide the value of the ID attribute. Now it is saying that the method find element by.id. Okay, it is a string ID used to locate the element by its ID. Okay. If the element don't have the ID, then you cannot use the ID locators. It takes the ID attribute value as an assignment as an argument. Okay. Now on what conditions we should not go with the ID locators? Okay. There are several disadvantages of using the ID locators in the Selenium in Java. This is also the most important questions which nobody tell you. Okay, what are the disadvantages of using the ID locators in the Selenium Java? Everyone know we can go with the ID locators on what conditions, but nobody will tell you on what conditions you should not go with the ID locators. Uniqueness means the values of the ID attribute must be unique for each element on the web page. So when you are writing your locators with the ID, then your ID attribute value should be unique. If there are multiple elements the same ID, Selenium WebDriver will only locate the most first element that matches the ID attributes value, which may not be the wrong element. Suppose on your web page, if you have the two web element with this same ID, and if you are writing the locators with the same ID, then your Selenium WebDriver will locate only the first one, and your intention is to locate the second one. In that condition, your script will fail. So you must take care of the uniqueness of the ID attribute. Now the maintenance. Second disadvantage is the maintenance. Okay, if the value of the id attribute of the element on the web page change, if you have written the your web locators using the id, and if the id value got changed, then the whole script that use the id locators will also need to be the updated, and which can be the time consuming and the error prone situation. Now third one is the not all elements have the id. If you want to write the locators with the id, but for the intended web element, if you don't have the id as an attribute, then you cannot write your web element with the use of the id locators in the Selenium WebDriver. So not all web elements on a web page have an id attribute, which means the id locators cannot be used to locate those elements. In such cases, another locator such as CSS selector or xpath must be used. You can choose any other locators. Now the performance. ID locator is faster than other locators. That is true, okay? But when the number of elements on the page is large, okay, it might take more time to locate the elements. So if there are the multiple ID web elements on the web page, and if you are writing the locators with the ID, then it will take time to locate your intended web elements. In that conditions, your performance will be slow compared to other locators. Now this is the very most important, dynamic IDs. Okay, some web pages have the dynamic IDs which change with each page load, and this can cause our test script to fail as the locator is no longer valid. It means if you that we will see in the demo also, but just try to understand. If we have the locator with the ID and which is having the numbers, and that number is getting changed when you are refreshing the page or navigating the page, or if you are updating the elements, like if you are adding something in the table and then you are deleting something in the table. So in that situations, the id attribute value getting changed, that we call as the dynamic IDs. So on first day you have written your script with that id, on second day when you run it will fail and you will get the no such element exceptions. Are all the disadvantage of the using the id locators in the Selenium WebDriver. Okay, so you must know all these conditions and then only you can select your locators. Now let's understand with the demo. Okay, this is the one web element and its id is the leid124. Now you can see in this one it is the numbers, so we should not go with this id attributes. You can take another locators. Okay, now you can see here is all is there, so you can go with the link text. Okay, you can go with the button role tab. Let's understand the exceptions which will thrown by the Selenium. If the no element in the DOM matches with the required id, if you have written your script with the id attribute and if there is no such matches available in the DOM document object model, then you will get no such element exception. Okay, this is very important questions. If your id is not matching with the DOM, then what type of exception you will get? So you should say it is the no such element exception. Okay, now let understand with the demo. Okay, alright, so now we are here on the canva.com. This is the page. We will take the help of this website to understand the id locators. Now on this web page you can see the elements are getting refreshed. Okay, now suppose if you want to write the locators for this website, so this is the search. If in this search, how will you inspect? So now here is the inspecting technique we should use. So the best is you can go with the dev tools which is available in the Chrome. So for that you can go to the indented web element and here right click and then you click on the inspect. Okay, now you will see the DOM, it will display. So in the DOM you can see this is the input. Okay, tag name. So now you can see this type of id is the stable id. If you refresh the page, this will be the static. So like that you can return the script driver.find element by.id, and here you can pass the value of the id. Alright, so now let's check the dynamic IDs. So now here we will see some dynamic IDs are available or not. So here I will go to the projects. Now here I want to inspect this folder. So I just right click on it, inspect this one. Now I can see the ID is this one. So now you can see the button role ID is the LEID 167. Okay. So this time the ID is LEID 167, and this is the 169, 171, 173. So in the one div you can see there are the multiple IDs are there. So if you write the locators using this ID, then what it will do, it will check this ID, then it will come to the second ID, then it will come to the third ID. So like that, if the multiple IDs are available, then the performance of your automation script will be down. This will impact the performance of your automation script if you have written the locators using the ID in the Selenium. Okay. So in such situations, we should not go with the IT locators. Now you can see easily on my screen. Now the second thing, if I change my account from personal to the Canva Pro, okay. Now let's check the value of the ID for these folders and designs. Okay. Now I will go to again to the projects. In projects, I want to inspect the folder. Okay. So now this time you see the value of the ID is this one. And what was the earlier? It was 167. So if you have written your script with this ID, and next time when you run your automation script with a different account, or when you refresh the page, the ID got changed, and in that case you will get no such element exception. Now let's take the one more example. So you can see this is the facebook.com, and here I just inspected this username field. So in the username field you can see this is the ID is the email. So this ID is the stable, and we can use this ID as a locator for our automation script. Okay, so let's check and execute our automation script with this ID. If I refresh the page, let's see if this is the dynamic or stable. The ID will be the same. Okay, how many times if I refresh, the ID will be the same. So now let's go to our automation script, and here you can pass the ID as an email. Okay, and here you can pass your email ID and whatever email ID you have. Okay, save your automation script and just run the automation script. And it's going to locate the email address. Now you can see it enter the email address for the facebook.com. Because this ID is the stable ID, this is not the dynamic ID. But in the Canva case, if you go with that, these are the dynamic IDs. So we should not write the locators using the ID for these web elements. Then we can go with the other locators.